Hello and welcome back to another 5v5. Let's be honest, some of my reviews do seem to go on a little bit. This is a big old subject now, and there's a lot to cover. Luckily, we will always do 5v5s, and this is where I tell you 5 reasons to buy this new piece of equipment. This is the TS-873AU, and 5 reasons why you might not want to buy it. These are the reasons that a lot of home and business users ultimately will decide, do you know what, this thing's going to do the job for me and my staff. Or you might go, well, I didn't know about that, that's dodgy. And hopefully this helps you choose the right solution for you, whatever it is. But let's get straight onto it. Reason number 1 that you might want to buy the brand new 873AU from QNAP is that CPU and memory inside. It is that Ryzen the V1500B. It is a quad-core 2.1 GHz processor, and the system even arrived with 4 GB of memory that can be upgraded up to 32 GB. This is an impressive architecture for a half-depth rack mount. I am a big fan of half-depth rack mounts anyway, because I think the architecture behind them is one of those things where it shows the industry moving forward, and things get smaller and smaller, but they still maintain the power. And a number of business users may want to get a server, you know, it's their first little rack mount device, little cabinet in the corner, or their more mobile setup, and until recent years, they would have had to buy something that's a bit low powered, a little bit ARM 32-bit dual core in the corner that, you know, it handled data, but it wasn't exactly powerful, and it left them ultimately frustrated and disappointed. Fast forward to now, and you've got systems like the 873 that are bringing genuine SMB, small medium business hardware architecture that can power through things like virtualization, surveillance, Plex Media Server, and business-led applications like Hyper-V and VMware at this device in a compact NAS chassis with architecture that would impress a lot of bigger business buyers. Reason number 2 that you may want to consider this device, if we flip this around, is this device is 2.5 GBE. Those network ports there on the rear support 2.5 GBE or 250 megabytes per second each. They also both arrive with support, link aggregation support to up to 500 megs. So this device, with its greater than gigabit level connectivity, means you can push a lot more data through, and given that this is an 8-bay and therefore with RAID 5 and RAID 6 you are looking at speeds in excess of 500 megs, it's good that you have got the ability to max those out over just 2 connections, as well as having an option to add more later on, but we'll get onto that in a wee bit. But 2.5 GB is something QNAP have really gone hard on, and it has to be said, I think it's working for them, because they are producing solutions at a relative price point to that of their biggest competitor Synology, but have broken long out of 1 GBE. And although the number of client devices that we've seen that have greater than 1 GBE at the 2.5G and 5G level is still not exactly widespread, it is growing with things like Wi-Fi 6 and more affordable managed switches coming out from Netgear, from Archer, and coming out from QNAP themselves. Reason number 3 that you may consider this device, so we're going to lift it up again, is those USB ports. This device has a combination of USB 3.2 Gen 1 and Gen 2 over C and A connections. And given that this device does have a myriad of virtual machine applications and backup options that allow you to connect directly with those USB ports, the ability to have the faster 10 gigabits per second USB, which means faster backup, which means faster connected devices, is definitely something you want to get behind. And again, given that QNAP has been one of the first brands to embrace faster than 5 gigabits per second USB, and give you the gamut of full connectivity between each architecture, you've got to give them props for allowing you to have much faster backup connections to those ports, as well as expansions that I'll touch on later on. Reason number 4 that you may want to consider this device is that PCIe slot there. It is a PCIe Gen 3 x 8 slot, so that is a comfortable 8,000 megabytes per second throughput between a connected card and the host system. Now, that it actually can be branched out in a number of ways. First and foremost, because this is an 8-bay, you can pop in a dual port 10G card there, sweet as a nut. You can install a combo card like the QM2 combo card series, which have got NVMe and 10GB connections on the rear. You can add combo NVMe cards inside that slot, such as the 2-port and 4-port QM2 NVMe cache cards and raw storage cards that allow you to add much faster storage inside to be used externally via a connected switch, etc., or internally with some of that software. That PCIe upgrade slot gives you a lot of scope for what you can do, but it gets even better than that because QNAP do have an adapter that you can connect to that port that allows you to install 2 PCIe Gen 3 x 4 cards. So rather than one slot that gives you 8,000 megs and maybe installing a card that's not going to take advantage of the full range and the full bandwidth, QNAP have an adapter that goes straight inside there that allows you to install 2 cards, each with up to 4,000 megs throughput each. So you can have one card for a couple of 10G or 20 GBE ports or a fiber channel, and you can install an SSD card as well. And that kind of fluidity is incredibly important on the PCIe upgrades, because now it's not a question of me saying there's one port. You can scale up later on, and the upgradability of the 873AU is definitely something to behold, which leads us neatly into reason number 5. The expandability on this 8-bay is unparalleled at its price point and its level in the hierarchy of NAS. Now, of course, I have already compared this to the 1221 Plus from Synology. I'm not sure if that video is out right now. I think it might be. But it's worth touching on that device, along with a bunch of other devices from their competitors, can only be expanded by 4 bays with the RX 418. This, on the other hand, can be expanded by a gamut of 2, 4, 8, 12, and 16 bay expansions. These expansions connect either via standard USB, USB 3.2 Gen 2, or with PCIe cards that arrive with the expansion in order for you to connect these 12 and 16 bay expansions, and with multi-port cards connecting the expansion and this device included, you can get those 16 bays at full performance. Again, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 and 5,000 megabytes per second throughput between the expansion and this device via supported PCIe cards that arrive with the expansion. The expandability of this simple 8-bay is enormous, and again, as I say, unparalleled at its price point and its point in terms of architecture of a half-depth 8-bay in the market right now. However, it's not all good news. There are some things about this device that do not tick all the boxes. First and foremost, actually I should add, a few of these might change. So right now at the time of the recording, they are definitely true, but if they're not true later on, I apologise that I'm not Mystic Meg, and if you get that reference, thanks. So, reason number 1, the price point. The price point of this device, there is an RP model and a non-RP, so there's a 1 PSU and a 2 PSU model. The 1 PSU model is 1,600 NECA. The RP model, the dual PSU model, is over 2,000 quid, and that's including the tax in your own regions. That is a lot of money for an 8-bay. I think that's about 2, maybe 300 quid too expensive for my mind. Yes, you have got PCIe Gen 3 x 8. Yes, 2.5 GBE. You've got that USB connectivity on the rear there. It is a compact chassis. I get that. But it still seems quite high for an 8-bay SMB rack mount, given that we've seen a lot of them retail about 1,400 NECA, not 16. So I think that price point is going to put a lot of people off. Reason number 2 that you might not want to go for this device, it doesn't have QTS Hero. It doesn't have the ZFS option inside. Now, I'm not sure where they're going with the licensing. I don't know where things stand with regards to upgrading your QTS NAS to QTS. I know their licensing and purchasable licenses online is still not active, or at least not fully active. So right now, at time of recording, if you buy this, you can only use the ext4 QTS version of the software, which isn't a bad thing. All of the apps, all of the software, all of the features and functionality, but doesn't have ZFS inside. Now, ZFS as an upgrade option down the line, do check that out because it will be useful. You've got all of the advantages from inline data compression and deduplication, as well as all of the RAID resync, RAID build and RAID silvering benefits and triple parity advantages of ZFS. Just make sure you upgrade the memory if that option comes along. But right now, this is not available as a ZFS option. And I know a number of you are going, of course not, it's not a Xeon processor. Why would you expect that? Well, they have a NAS, the H973 Desktop 5-bay, that has exactly the same CPU as this, exactly the same type of memory, and that has ZFS. So why shouldn't this? Who knows? Reason number 3 that you may not want to go for this device. Unlike a lot of, QNAPs that I think make them very, very unique, this does not have an LCD panel or an HDMI out, and I know they are niche. I know I'm talking to a small contingent of you that like having those options, but I happen to be one of you, and I like that a lot of QNAPs have HDMI out. I like the fact that you can have a standalone surveillance platform. I like that you can have a media center that outputs directly. I like that you can have a virtual machine that can be directly accessed by the system with a KVM keyboard video mouse. I like Rackmount with LCDs that tell me IPs, temperature, defining alerts. I like all that stuff, and the fact this doesn't have it is a little disappointing. I get that the CPU is not graphically embedded, and that's one of the main reasons why it would not have HDMI out, but I don't think it's impossible because this device does support GPU cards, something else I'll touch on later on. But again, that's if you wanted an LCD, or more precisely an HDMI NAS, I think you're going to come away disappointed there. Reason number 4, you might not go for this device, and this is more about a running trend in 2020, 2021. It doesn't have SSD caching bays inside, and that really, really surprised me because I thought we are reaching that point where pretty much all NASs have M2 slots inside, be they SATA or NVMe, that allow you to improve the performance of the larger hard drive array. Now, maybe it's a PCIe lane limitation from the CPU to support that greater USB, to support the greater PCIe, to support the greater LAN connections. But still, it's a little disappointing this device doesn't have M2s inside to upgrade for caching or to use them as raw storage. Another great thing that QNAP provide, but something you're going to need an expansion card in order to take advantage of on this system. And reason number 5 you might not go for this device, and this comes back to that issue of graphics cards, because on the one hand, I'm super chuffed that this device allows you to upgrade its visual performance with a GPU card inside that allows you to install a card and therefore either bestow those graphical performance benefits to things like Plex and transcoding or to virtualization station in a VM. But there's only like 6 cards on the compatibility list. If you go to QNAP's compatibility list, there's only 6 cards on there. Now, I get it. One of the big reasons is height. A lot of GPU cards are too tall to go inside this device because of that chassis at the top. But I still think there's a lot more low height cards out there that could be supported on this, and whether they just aren't or QNAP haven't had the time to flesh out the supported card roster, that's hard to say. But given that a lot of GPU cards either don't have adapted brackets for the rear to go to half height like this, or the cards just haven't been tested yet, it's still disappointing that there's only around 6 to 7 supported GPU cards on this device, because that lack of HDMI and the lack of graphical upgradability is something I know a number of you, and again I am talking about a small contingent, might go, I'm less keen on. But this has been my 5v5 for the 873AU. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have, click like, and if you want to learn more, click subscribe. Visit the guys at span.com for the next NAS solution that you need, because they are the professionals. They can help you every step of the way. And of course, visit me at NAS Compares in the description to learn more about NAS, with lots of tips and guides to make the most of your storage. I will see you next time.